In the year 1676, a mysterious giant bone was pulled from the quarries of Oxfordshire, England. At the time, it was thought to belong to a biblical giant. But centuries later, it was revealed to be something far greater. This was no giant's bone. It was the world's very first discovery of a dinosaur, the mighty Megalosaurus. And this is where the story of paleontology begins.
The Lost Giant of Oxfordshire. It was the year 1676 in the quiet English countryside of Oxfordshire. At a stone quarry near the village of Cornwall, workers were breaking through layers of Jurassic limestone when their picks struck something strange. From the rubble, they dragged out a massive, heavy bone, a fragment so large that no ordinary cow, horse, or man could have owned it. Its surface was dark, stony, and ancient, unlike anything they had seen before. The quarrymen, puzzled, passed the bone along to a man who was gaining a reputation for studying the curiosities of nature, Robert Plot. He was not only the first professor of chemistry at Oxford, but also the keeper of the brand new Ashmolean Museum, where oddities from across the world were being collected. Plot studied the bone with care, running his hands over its ridges and measuring its proportions. It was thick, solid, and clearly from the thigh of some colossal creature. But what kind? In the 17th century, there was no concept of extinct giant reptiles. The word dinosaur was still almost 2 centuries away from being born. Instead, Plot turned to the framework of knowledge available in his time, the Bible, myths, and the writings of ancient historians. Giants, after all, were said to have once walked the earth. In the book of Genesis, the Nephilim were described as towering beings, and classical tales spoke of monstrous humans of enormous strength. Plot wondered, could this bone have belonged to one of them? In 1677, he published his conclusion in his great book, The Natural History of Oxfordshire. He carefully drew the fossil and declared it was the thigh bone of a giant man. His words gave life to an image that stirred the imagination. Once in England's ancient past, titans may have roamed the land. But the truth was far stranger. The bone itself was lost in time, misplaced, broken, or discarded, and only Plot's drawings and writings remained. For more than a century, his discovery sat in obscurity, remembered as little more than a curiosity. Then, in the early 1800s, new fossil discoveries began to emerge from the very same Oxfordshire hills. A geologist and clergyman named William Buckland uncovered more bones, massive jaws, vertebrae, and limb fragments of a creature that had walked the land during the Jurassic Age. He named it Megalosaurus, the great lizard, in 1824, the first dinosaur ever to be formally described by science.
When scholars looked back at Robert Plot's old illustration, they realized the truth. The bone he had mistaken for a giant's femur was, in fact, a fragment of Megalosaurus, a predator that had stalked England over 160 million years ago. Thus, the quarrymen of Oxfordshire had unknowingly uncovered the first dinosaur bone ever recorded in history. Though it was misunderstood and lost, its ghost lived on in ink and memory. What began as the bone of a giant man became, in hindsight, the seed of a revolution in science, the dawn of paleontology. In 1676, Robert Plot described a mysterious giant bone from Oxfordshire as belonging to a biblical giant. But centuries later, it was revealed to be from Megalosaurus, the first documented dinosaur fossil in history.